She's still waiting for the wind, and when it comes, she'll start immediately kick into action. Sweet. Greetings YouTube, it's Sunday. I'm trying to get the bearing plates bolted in. Now it's pretty hot, so my camera doesn't work very well in the heat, so I'm just going to explain. I've got this just clamped on there to stop the shaft moving back. I'm trying to move this one back into this position. With regards to the bolts, all I've done is tighten that up, then I'm taking a grinder and just cutting them off, as you can see there, and then I'll stick a bit of weld in the top or do something. So yeah, this one's the one I've got to sort out. So I've got taken a wire brush. This will go rusty, unfortunately, because it's mild steel, because the stainless steel is so expensive. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It definitely doesn't impede things at all. It just looks a bit cack. So yeah, the job is get that one down here and then see how they fit. These, not 100% sure how much I'm going to have to do to fit these. That one isn't in correctly, as you can see. And on a bit of an own up to a mistake, these, for some reason, the holes in these two don't seem to be perfectly aligned, but it doesn't matter because the bearing can self-align, if that makes sense. Even if the bearing was at 20 degrees, it would still line up perfectly. It's not ideal, but that's probably a couple of degrees out. So I'm just going to try and get this one down here, and then we can, once I've got the third one in place, we can shape it up and then think about welding. Just a repeater, I did have to move this. The plan was to have this bearing right at the very back, but due to length restrictions, couldn't really do that, and I need at least this much, however it is, at least this much. So yeah, I'm going to crack on with that, and then I'll come back with a bit of progress. Sweet. I'll just hopefully you can see this indentations where it's either got knocked or something's got tightened up. If you tighten a bolt up in one of these, if you tighten a bolt up in one of these tight, it will actually force the metal in, but that won't go over that, so I'll probably have to take the grinder and just remove those little bits. Only took a minute with the grinder. You can probably see better there where the problem spots were, perhaps. Yeah, there. But that's in place, so I now need to sort some bolts out for that, and don't forget I'm not tightening or fixing anything until I've made sure this is perfectly level. Sweet. Okay, so this is good news. I've got a fair bit done. I'll try and explain everything. What I found that, firstly the middle bearing, we'll call this one, I found that when that was tightened down and then the front plate was laid flat, that the back plate stuck up a bit, and it was a case of there had to be a little bit of give. So what I did, I welded the front plate on. Yeah, I welded the front plate on. I may put more welds on, I may not. I can't really stand there doing it endlessly. I just end up bending stuff. So yeah, so did the front one, bolts in, bearing in, and then I put the back plate on where I was happy with it, and even though it's at a slight angle, everything is perfectly straight and flat with regards to the drive shaft, which is what we need. Just explain something else. Firstly, obviously these bearings can now come off whenever they need replacing or whatever by just undoing these bolts. I've put a bit of weld on there, it's not coming off. They're M10 bolts for now, but they'll be changed. They're M12 bolts. So what I did was I simply used a set square, and we've got the reference point are the actual outside of the frame. There and there. They're the reference points, and using a set square, all I wanted to calculate was that I could make sure the drive shaft was perfectly centered at both ends, because I can just do it here and line it up, and then I can just do it there and line it up. I've got movement in the bearings if I want, but at the moment, this measurement here, the space between the outside of the shaft and the outside of the frame is exactly 90 mil on that side and exactly 90 mil on that side, and the shaft's 25 mil, giving a total width of 205 mil. So yeah, really that is a fair amount of progress. In the next episode, I'm waiting on the gear to come to fit to the motor. What I also want is some kind of, like I had on the other turbine, some kind of situation going on here. Hang on, let me get a bolt. Well, where we have a bolt which will be attached to the frame here somehow, come down, and then there'll be something here, a big washer would make a good example, and then we can tighten up and loosen up the bolt. Sorry, trying to get focus. We can tighten and loosen up the nuts on the bolt to adjust the turbine up and down, so that will be very cool. So that will be in the next episode, perhaps, that or the gear. And one little whizlet. I think the slight little noise is because this isn't all the way in, so getting a bit of epic optical illusion going on. Let's have a look at that again. There you go. Sweet, the channel that keeps on giving, but let's have some likes for that. That turned out all right. So as I said, the front one's perfectly flat on there, but the back one's a little bit tiny skew width. But the main thing is, as I keep repeating, is that this is perfectly parallel running down the middle of the beast. One other thing which I'll fess up to, the holes must have been slightly out of alignment on those two plates I did, because you can see the bearings are sitting actually like that. And that is one blessing of using these bearings that I didn't think about. They'll work perfectly well, even if there was a 10 or 15 degree slant on the bearing like that. So it'll be going clockwise. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now, my friends. And a Sunday afternoon, but that is good progress, because I know that's all lined up. This is in virtually the right place, although obviously this can be moved. It feels very satisfying to turn like that, although it's quite hard. One thing I'll need to do at some stage is to fit one of these on the front here on the inside, then that stops the whole assembly, because what we're going to do is we'll get this perfectly lined up with the chain running so the motor can be turned and it feels nice and slick, and then we'll cut a hole in the drive shaft to match a hole there, and then we could have a hole on either side. Sorry, we could have a, where's my finger? We could have a hole on either side. Don't know how much of that you can see. But yeah, that is a fair amount of progress, because like I say, waiting for the gear sprocket to go on the front of the motor and do this thing here on either side with the adjustment device, and then we'll be rocking. So sweet, I'll see you soon. Cheers.